welcome to edition 107 of All Killa No Filla podcast with me, Rachel Fairburn, and Kiri Pritchard-McLean. Just before we start, we'll do our usual disclaimer. This isn't hero worship. We do this podcast because of mutual interest in serial killers. As long as we are doing this podcast, it stops us from writing to them in prison.
That's the best you've done it in a while. Well done, Rachel. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
I haven't been wearing nice clothes for this.
Can I take that hair off you? Because otherwise I'll be looking at it the whole time.
It's attached.
Have you ever done that? I've been like, oh my God, there's a hair there. And I'm like, I have one blonde hair on my chest. Yeah.
It's the chin for me. It's never ending. It's a full-time job. I actually think women should get some sort of tax rebate for having the amount of time we have to stand.
Yeah, another invisible tax on our time, right?
Yeah. So I am wearing, I feel quite, just being a bit casual, you know.
That's fine.
Bit free and easy.
I've gone for a fun bomber.
Yeah, lovely lovely fun bomber.
If you're listening to this, I'm wearing a bomber jacket. I'm not like, I've had a direction change, I've binned off the fella, and I'm with a very fun bomber these days. Now, it'd be interesting to, because I reckon depending on your age, you will have imagined people from different parts of the world. Right?
Ireland.
Yeah. Or other parts. That's as much as we're doing on that. We've just been
swiftly on.
We've been having quite middle-aged, middle-class conversation about what would you call them? I want to say food parcels, but that's not it, is it? That's aid.
Meal boxes.
Yes, because I forayed into the meal box because I absolutely hate waste.
Yes,
and some of them are delicious. Some of them are like, come on.
Yeah, I have started using, let's say it, HelloFresh. This isn't sponsored.
I'm not using
but
that
also,
brand.
But
if they want to send
we got some deodorant, didn't we? So why not mention it? See what else we can get. So I'm using that, and this is not a sponsored. But I decided on New Year's Eve, I do like a New Year's resolution, and I thought I'm going to drink less. Which I did last year. And I had, a couple of drinks this year, that's it. I've changed my relationship with alcohol because it had to happen. And I said, right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to cook. I'm going to cook more. And I'm going to learn how to cook. And I've only had 2 takeaways this year, and that's because I've been in hotels.
Do you know what? Tim told me about this when I went over to yours. And the way he spoke about it. No, the way he spoke about it was how I would talk about, you may or may not know, I have a dog. He is paralysed from his back, so his back legs don't work, has a wheelchair. And when I talk about him, I go, do you know what? He's doing ever so well. And he's just really happy and in no trouble to anyone. And just, and that is how he was sort of talking about you. And he was like, she wasn't the best of cooks before, but he was like, she's done really well. Yeah. I'm so proud of her. She cooks loads of different things. And
I've made 3 cakes.
What, you get cake in a HelloFresh box?
No, I got the recipe online. Lemon drizzle. Now,
what a classic cake.
I've made 3 lemon drizzles I've made. Getting good at it. I think everyone's sick of it now. Well, Tim's sick of it now. And I made I went a bit left field. I did it with an orange, I did that myself. Orange drizzle. Very good.
Great, drag name, Orange Drizzle.
Orange drizzle. Very good. I also, using the meal kits has inspired me. I'm like, well, everything's there. I can do this myself. And I've loved it. I've been really enjoying it. And the other night, it's even changed me getting takeaways because even though I came back late from a gig, usually I'd have been straight in Mackey's. I've not had a McDonald's this year.
Wow, that is big.
That is mad for me because that is my thing. I love a Mackey's. Not sponsored by McDonald's. If they do want to give me free food, I will eat it. I fucking love McDonald's.
They gave it to the Israeli army. They might as well give it to you.
I love McDonald's. There you go. I don't care. Now, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. I was on my way home and I thought, do you know what? I'm not going to get a takeaway. I'm going to go home, and it might not seem a lot. I'm going to make beans on toast, and I'm going to have tea in the house, and I'm not getting a takeaway.
Great.
Feels so much better.
Because as I've discussed before, the local Chinese near me is absolutely top-notch banging. We probably have it once a week, I reckon. And now it's like I've sort of mentally gone, let's just have it once a month, which is much better than fucking smashing it. And then the meal box I'm using, and I don't know, I think I went for this one because it felt like there was better vegan options. So I'm using Gusto. Got a lovely little discount code. And they had a Chinese banquet option. You pay a little more, sure.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely delicious. We had it last night. And I was like, I nearly tricked myself into having a takeaway here. And that's a nice feeling.
Yes. Absolutely. but it's changed my, the thing about me, though, is when I say I'm going to do something, I do it.
That's true.
And I say it, and I do it.
You had a couple of run-ups, I would say, into quitting smoking, but that is because that's apparently one of the hardest things to do ever.
Yeah, and it's done.
And you have done it.
I have done it. So yeah, put my mind to something to it. Highly recommend.
Have you thought about trying to have a go at curing cancer? Because I feel like you should use your determination for more than just making a pasta bake.
If I could do that, I would
not tell anyone. Keep it to yourself.
Would I
keep it in your back pocket for when you need it?
Would I do it for free? Absolutely not. Would I demand billions? Yes, I would.
What do you think
I'm not like that
anyway?
guy that gave the internet away. I'd be like, stump up, mate. That's what I'd want. Yeah, having said that, here we are. Donate to the Patreon.
Massive thank you to everyone who does that as well. It's because obviously now we have like higher production values. You've allowed us to buy these mics,
yes,
and hire someone to do everything.
Are you a patron of any podcasts?
No, do you know what I think it is my you are though. You're constantly making it rain.
A Patreon of Jim Harold Campfire. Actually, I'm in the special spooky club or whatever it is, and I pay every month to get access to all the episodes. There's hundreds. It's so good. I love it. Stay spooky, Jim. Love it. Listen to that. But also the other podcast that I'm a patron of, a podcast with my friends in. So I'm paying.
Is it the comic one?
TVI.
Oh.
Two Vegan Idiots.
Right.
I'm also a patron of What's Upset You Now. Which, Paul McCaffrey's a very good friend of mine. So I'm effectively...
Just give him a tenner next time I see him.
Oh, yeah, I mean, but I love the podcast. So, Two Vegan Idiots with Julian Dean and Carl Donnelly is one of my absolute favourites.
I love it. Yeah.
Carl Donnelly is they're both so funny.
Yeah.
And stand-up-wise, Carl Donnelly, I think, should be a huge star.
He is massively underrated. Hugely. I think he's very respected, isn't he? But then...
Yeah. No one wants respect. We want money and praise.
Absolutely. And free meal boxes.
So, but this is a huge thing because all I used to eat was chicken and breadcrumbs with potato waffles or a baked potato. That was the extent of my...
Do you know what? That's the big thing is that we're so like often because you're busy, you end up eating processed food, which is crap and makes you feel horrible afterwards. And not in a like, I've been naughty, I've had bad food. Not any of that problematic stuff of like, I just want to make food with ingredients.
Yes.
And that's what this meal box has helped with, actually.
It really has, I'd say, changed my life. And not just that.
This really feels like an advert now.
Yeah, but it's not. I feel better, Also,
my periods are regular. My skin is clearer.
Also,
I'm attracting luck from the universe.
I've been going to a new exercise class, F45.
What does that stand for?
45 minutes. I don't know what the F stands for, actually. Fitness 45, maybe?
Okay.
I don't know. It's American. And I've been going to that, and there's a lovely lady that was talking to me in the changing rooms the other day, and I didn't catch her name.
That.
Oh no, she was dead nice. She was a big fan, and she was lovely and she was very nice. So if you're watching this, hello, I didn't get your name, but I'll see you at F45. Fucking expensive, tell you.
Really?
Yes, but it is good. It's you book in the class. It starts on time. No pissing about. Bang, 45 minutes.
How do you feel? Can I interrupt briefly? How do you feel about this? One of the nearest sinners to me is in Carnarvon in a gallery, and they say this. The film says, you look up, right, when are they next showing what Paul thinks? 6:45. That is what time the film starts. The trailers, if you want to watch them, you have to get there 15 minutes before.
Oh.
So they were like, if we say it's starting at 6:45, it's starting at 6:45.
Thank you. I love it.
Really?
Yeah. Tell me.
I hate it.
This is something that I struggle with and especially like, if you have a personal trainer for a while, like I did, I loved the sessions, but I don't like chat. I find talking very difficult, and not big, lovely people that I've worked, trained with and stuff. But I'm like, I just want to get in, do the exercise, and go. And I've been at 6 a.m. as well. Get me in there, bang, do it.
I've had 2 PTs that I loved and would look forward to chatting to, like Colin. Love Colin, miss him every day. When I was in Manchester and Blakely, the Body Matrix doesn't exist anymore. I think he's now a firefighter. And he was amazing. And he just knew everything about my life. I remember when I was deciding, whether to change agents or not, or what to do. And then I'd broken up with someone and then I got with someone else and he'd be like, right, well, and he knew everyone. He's like, what does Kath think of this? And then he's like, well, there's the thing, if you go...
I love that.
I think you should go with Chiggy, there's just experience there. And like, he just knew everything about my life. I love him. He's so great. And then I went to Jovino at J7, who I think is like a viral sensation now.
I've seen this guy.
Yeah, he's amazing. So he was my PT for ages, and he's like...
Yeah.
He's... Have I told you about... I told you about my fella. So my fella was like, I'll go to the gym. And I was like, you should have a PT session like with me. He'll train us both. And because he'd never worked with a PT. And I was like, it's so helpful, even if you only work with him for a bit, and it'll sort of optimize what you're doing. And so he did. And then he just loved training us both. But like everybody else, he just loved my partner and not me. And so my partner was like, I really want to, just like do some boxing. It turns out, just like everything else, again, he's really naturally good at that. And then Jovino was like, I know what we're going to do is, when's your birthday? And so say this is like in June, and he was like, December. And he's like, just on your birthday, we're going to organise a fight for you. But we'll just make it small, closed ring. Kiri can come down and watch. And he was like, and that's your goal. That's what you're going to work towards. And he's like, what do you think? He says, I think I don't want to be beaten up in front of my girlfriend on my birthday. So it never happened. But he was like, it's my words. Because he was like, I don't want to fight in front of, I just wanted to do boxing, which he is like, yeah, as I say, brilliant at. But Jovino, if you're out there, I know you're out there because I message you all the time. And he also trains our friend Kath from Tarot.
Oh.
He sent me a video the other day and going, look, Kath, you and Kath are gonna have a fight. You and Kath are gonna have a fight. You're gonna have a boxing fight. And he wheels the camera around to Kath, who's going, I haven't agreed to any of this. But I love Jovino. He's amazing. He's got a beautiful, a really big heart. He's a fantastic father as well. He does so much for the community. He does loads with knife crimes with young people who are disillusioned. Loads of
trains, so he's encouraging them to get into it.
Yeah, he hands out knives on the door. Yeah, trains loads of people, like disabled people who haven't been welcome in gyms and stuff before. He's a really good egg, and he does free. When I went, he was doing free classes for people who had cancer and needed like rehab and physio.
Nice guy, like this, good.
And he just, and there was an older class as well that he did free for people who, so a lot of the exercises are sat down. And I remember he'd sort of like be playing this really misogynistic gangster rap while I was in there training. And then he'd switch over to the Foundation's Build Me Up Buttercup when all the old dears came in, give them a cuddle and a kiss. And they were like, stop it, Jovino. Like, just come down for a flirt and to do this with a weight. It's adorable.
It just reminded me of, we will get onto this in a second. You just reminded me. So when there was an exercise class I used to go to in Walthamstow, and it's stopped now. But one of the trainers, really nice guy, he used to play, bring his own. A lot of it wasn't for me. However, I do very much like the rapper Slick Rick. And if you want misogynistic rap, that is the rap to go to. Absolutely love a bit of Slick Rick. Now, we train, and it's all women in this classroom, everyone's exercising. Anyway, he obviously had his thing on shuffle, and Treat Her Like a Prostitute by Slick Rick came on, and I was doing something, I was just like, oh God, this is so
not even the
funny.
radio had it.
And it's going, it's going on, it's like, it's the mailman's dick, and I'm like, whoa, and he just went, and everybody just went, okay, then it skipped it off. I was like, nobody else has heard this, just all these women sort of exercising this fucking misogynistic, absolute tune, though. To be fair.
Well, whatever gets you going. Should we talk about this?
So again, you've done this. I'm gonna.
Yeah, I've done.
I'm along for the ride.
The bulk of the research on this. I'm gonna say now, Rachel, you're gonna absolutely hate this. There is, I think, a few moments that you're going to find really maddening. Now, this is a serial killer that I didn't really know anything about. Appears on lots of lists of, it's one of Britain's most prolific. Appears on lots of lists of like, here's a serial killer that you've never heard of. I think maybe this was potentially a listener recommendation as well.
Oh,
we haven't done our mailing back.
Oh, we'll do that in a bit.
We'll do that at the end.
Yeah.
So this also happens at around the same time as the Yorkshire Ripper, who killed fewer people, but is far more famous and in a similar kind of area as well. So we're going to be talking about Peter George Dinsdale. That's what he was born as. But also there's rumours that his name was Peter Tredgett as well. Okay. So, but then he does go on to change his name to Bruce Lee. He changes his name to Bruce Lee when he's older. So his full title, his full sort of like name is Bruce George Peter Lee. I'll probably call him Peter throughout this. He was also known locally as Daft Peter. and also known as the Selby Street arsonist until he was caught. So he was born July 31st, 1960 in Manchester.
Legend. Woo! Like him already.
His mum, Doreen, so I'm going to say this whole sentence, but I feel like it's his two parts of the sentence that don't fit together. His mum, Doreen, was a sex worker. For some reason, I just don't imagine a Doreen being a sex worker. No shade to any Doreens listening out there.
No, I can't imagine a Doreen. I imagine really big knockers.
Oh, yeah, just all knocker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just flipping them down like that. Yeah.
Just pulls up a tabard.
Or pulls the tabard aside, jiggles a tit like that, and then just puts it back. And he goes, "Did you want gravy?" His father was unknown, and when Peter was born, he had a lot of different problems. So he had epilepsy for a start. And he also had the right side of his body was affected by a congenital disease that meant that he was partially paralysed in his right leg, so he used to have a limp, and also his hand didn't work very well on the right hand side, and he used to often like hold it across himself.
Okay.
So it basically didn't function as well.
I must have mentioned this before. Do you know I sleep like that?
Do you? With a microphone?
No, because that
is another thing.
That's how I used to hold my toy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I had a toy. I think it's because I've got OCD. I used to have my toy, Woeful Willie, we've mentioned it before, till in my sort of 20s, and because of that, I still sleep as if
Do you sleep on your front or your back like that?
Either. Well, I change position sleeping. So if I'm on my back, I do that.
Really?
Or on my side. Yeah.
I know it's very sweet that you slept with him till your 20s. But I think when you got to your 20s, why not do it through your 30s as well? It's not less embarrassing, is it?
Yeah, but it's because I got a boyfriend that seemed like an actual man.
Right, okay.
That I then thought, he's a big man. I don't want him thinking I'm...
Okay, yeah. And you don't want Woeful Willie to watch.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I get you. I get you. So, yeah, he had sort of like, his arm was sort of underdeveloped. His mum would frequently refer to him as a freak. So Doreen, not the most sympathetic mum out there.
I know it's not funny.
No, it's really unfunny.
But, to be honest with you, that's the kind of thing my mum would say. I don't think this is abuse. I just think it's having
but your mum would say it like for doing something...
You're a freak.
Yeah, for nothing. Not because you have like multiple physical disabilities and epilepsy.
Well, do you know, my mum picked me up once from Barkervale tram station, and there's a bridge, and I was just waiting, minding my own business just a few years ago. And she pulled up in the car, she went, "What are you doing stood there like some sort of disaffected youth from the 1950s? Hello."
So his unsympathetic mother had him for the first sort of 6 months of his life. Then he goes and moves and lives with his gran. A lot of this is sounding quite a lot like you. Absolute freak, born in Manchester, lived with a nana. He spent quite a lot of time flitting in and out of sort of like his family, his mum and his grandma, but also the care system as well. So he was a looked after child for a while, was in children's homes. And this is during like the 60s and 70s when children's homes were particularly, I think, difficult, violent places to be. A lot of exploitation. In fact, during that time, he gets sort of recruited into being, I don't know what the right phrase for this is, so sorry if this is disrespectful, but like being a rent boy, basically. So that is where his relationship with that particular, I want to say trade, but craft. No, what is the right phrase? That particular world, let's say, starts. So he's 3 and he moves back in with his mum. His mum has now got a husband. It's quite an unstable marriage, but it's like the closest he has to a sort of settled home. He goes off to school. The school he goes to is for kids with additional needs as well. He's there till he's 16. His IQ comes out at 68, which technically means that he has...
Fucking stupid.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. If you are listening, that is but exactly what both of us think about that. Absolutely no retractions on our side. That is 100% what we mean.
It's low.
Yes.
Poor lad, I feel bad for him already.
There's quite a lot to feel sorry for him about, yeah. He was bullied an awful lot. He was known in the area for loving bonfires and fires, and he once said to Sean Lister, who will come back into this story, who was a local lad, similar age to him, he was like, oh, I want to burn that timber yard down. And then they had sort of set a little fire nearby. And then a few weeks later, the timber yard burned down. So Sean was like, well, that was obviously Daft Peter, as they called him.
That or he manifested it.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes you just got to ask the universe. Now, he is 9 years of age. Do you remember what you were doing when you were 9?
Oh, I was out on my bike. I had a green bike that said Sonnet on it.
Sonnet?
Yeah, I don't know. And I'd be riding my bike round the park. What else?
Round the clough?
Round the clough, yeah. Running in and out through the back door. Oh, drink a juice. Yeah, go back out. Go into the swimming baths. That's what I was doing.
Swimming baths?
It's
oh, yeah. Are they the ones
baths,
that's now like a college?
Yeah, oh my God. They would... Listen, our parade baths was fucking minging. It's Victorian, and they actually had baths up there. So people... Even when I used to go, you could pay to have a bath up on the top bit.
Is that because people didn't have them at home?
Yeah, because people didn't have them at home. So that building... So we used to go swimming there. That's... Been there every single day. There's some holidays. That's where we learned to swim as kids. It was disgusting. When I think back, I don't really like going swimming, and I think it's because of our parade baths. Gritty floor. That's what I remember. Like the floor was just gritty under your feet, and because it was such an old building, some of the tiles in the pool were up, so you'd be stubbing your toe. There'd be a plaster floating past you.
This is every council pool that you're describing, I think.
Yeah, but it was just so old. And our swimming teacher, Mr. Delaney was his name, I think. An Irish guy. And I remember there was a cockroach that was just...
What?
Like this, in its back next to the pool, and one of the lads went, oh, there's a cockroach here, sir. And he went, help it out. Where's your Christianity? I was like, just everything about it was so horrible. Like it was just such a run-down building. It was, and then I think I spent all my time in there as a kid, like in that horrible pool. It was just horrible.
This is gonna be an absolute clang now, guys. But I didn't. Oh no, actually, I bought this from my last tour. This is my treat to myself. I got a hot tub. I'm sure lots of us have got hot tubs. Not everybody, I understand that. But, like, I've got a hot tub.
You're allowed nice things. I don't want you fucking apologising to
because someone will be like, you hot tub owning motherfucker about something.
Tough shit,
But basically, it was the last time I was on tour.
Listen, you're allowed to work hard and you're allowed nice things. And if people have got a problem with that, then they need to fucking grow up.
Can you come to her if you've got a problem, actually? I'd like that. So, yeah, I've got a hot tub. And then it's a wood-fired one, right? So, because it's better for the environment.
Fuck off.
It's actually better for the environment. It also heats up way quicker, which is one of the reasons why it's better. So it used to take, I had a blow-up one that my fella got, and that was, it took 24 hours.
Did it blow up because he's a bomber?
This one is a couple of hours. So last year, the first time we'd used it, we set it up, in fact, for Valentine's Day. You know this, don't you? So I'd had it for ages, and it had been it hadn't been fitted right, all this kind of stuff. So eventually it gets put in place on Valentine's Day, and we're like, the week before, and we're like, let's go in it, because I had it since October. I'd ordered it in January, and they were like, it'll come in May, and then it didn't come till October, which is not a great time to be in a hot tub in Wales. So Valentine's Day, let's get in the hot tub. It just takes ages to fill it up, so we can't go in it on Valentine's Day. Fine. Also, he went and bought a fucking hose pipe. It wasn't long enough because it's quite far away from the house where we've got it. So I've shown you this video. He set up a sort of Heath Robinson affair that was the hose pipe going across the yard of the farm, and then going into some guttering that he'd found, onto some other guttering held up by a stepladder into the thing. The guttering was filthy, so he just filled it up with brown, sooty water. And so I was like, what? This does not feel like a nice thing for Valentine's Day.
You're ruining things.
Yeah, also the cat walked on the guttering, knocked it all down immediately.
Fucking hell.
Nightmare. Anyway, so we finally set it up. It's a while later. It's spring. I've got loads of children in my life. My friends' kids come over all the time. So I set up the hot tub for them. It's lovely and warm. And I was like, oh, great. Of course, no child showers before they get in it. Of course, they just like snot go down their face. No. Of course, they're just filthy. Some of them are teenagers anyway, so they're not great at keeping themselves clean. By the time I got in it, I was like, this is how fucking COVID starts. It was absolutely disgusting. Like soup of debris. Also, they're walking across the farmyard just like tiptoeing. So like their filthy feet were getting bent. So now I want to be like, you've got to shower before you go in it. But then I also don't want to be like, oh yeah, mum's friend who makes us shower before we do stuff.
Look, it's your hot tub, your rules. Look, kids ruin everything. You know, they're not little petri dishes of stuff, and I do like children, but you know, it's like when someone goes, "Oh, do you want a cake that my kids made?" Absolutely fucking
no,
not.
God no.
I do not want that with its filthy hands and it's been picking its beak. And
Rob Rouse has got a really brilliant bit where he talks about his little boy and having like he's either picking his bum. It's either picking his nose, touching the end of his willy, or touching a piece of cheese, and like his finger just moves between all of them. It's really fun. Rob Rouse is one of the best comics ever, good. And a good egg.
One of the nicest people in comedy, Rob Rouse.
I messaged him actually. We spoke about this, and I said, you know, Rachel and I think it was talking about us saying, Rachel and I would say, if we find out that you're a bad one, it's just over. Yeah. Like, you're such a good egg. He was like, oh, thanks, mate, that means loads. And he went, anyway, I'm DJing kids' parties, so I've got to go back to doing forward rolls in this church hall. Anyway, so he has, an IQ of 68. He burns down this timber yard. He's 9 years old. Mm-hmm. He burns a shopping precinct down. And he causes, so bearing in mind, this is 1969, £16,000 worth of damage. 17,000 pounds worth of damage back then. So Christ knows what that is equivalent to now. And I really thought that would play a bigger part. Like he would be, I guess he wouldn't be prosecuted as a kid, but, you know, there would be some kind of repercussions. He said he used to get a fire on the mind, and his fingers would tingle until he set fire to it. He later goes on in later life to say that fire is his master, and he quotes the Bible and saying a man cannot have two masters. And they're like, oh, so who's your master? And he's like, fire, which I think is embarrassing.
Wow.
Now they sort of say, oh, you know, the reason he set fire to all those things is because he was frustrated. And at first I was like, oh yeah, I get it. Being, you know, a disabled person is very frustrating in a world that is absolutely ableist. No, it's because he wanted to be a trawlerman. So because he wasn't...
He lived inland. This is a deep tragedy.
And he lived in Manchester. He does move to Hull at some point.
But it gets worse.
But yeah, he wanted to be a trawlerman, which is the hardest way of life there is.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do it because of his disabilities. So yes. Now, everyone locally felt quite sorry for him. Mm-hmm. This is actually one of the ways that he gets away with it for so long, is that he, like so many disabled people, is massively underestimated. He is bullied. Everybody refers to him as Daft Peter, including like teachers, adults, friends.
Well, if there's a lot of Peters, you've got to distinguish.
You've got to distinguish them.
You need to, you know.
I would have thought there was that
Smelly Peter, Daft Peter, Ugly Peter.
Peter's obsessed with Bruce Lee. He's a loner as well. He's a grafter though. He has loads of jobs. He works when he's a teenager at a local speedway.
Oh, so this will tell you where this happened then. Bellevue.
Oh, before, yeah, it must have been.
It's still there, the speedway.
Is it?
As far as I know, yeah.
What is a speedway? A dog track? Or is it a different
Bellevue
thing?
was a dog track and a speedway.
And a circus, Bellevue.
It used to be actually, Bellevue was a theme park and a zoo.
Bring it back.
And it was like, my mum said, it was like having, imagine having Blackpool Pleasure Beach on your doorstep. That's what it was.
Why did it all go?
Just closed down, I don't know why.
Because there were elephants and everything, wasn't there?
Elephants, all kinds of stuff. People would travel from all over Britain to go to it. Bellevue Pleasure Gardens. Yeah, it was a huge thing. But the Speedway, it's like motorbikes.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So yeah, it would have been Bellevue.
He worked at the Speedway track. He worked at a local pig market. Do you know that one as well?
Oh, is that Fifth Avenue?
You fucking cunt. You horrible bastard. That's shut down now as well.
It has, yeah.
Pig market, you twat. He also would babysit for local kids. But he was a bit strange with that as well. One time he came home, apparently, and he said, oh, I forgot to mention, this is my son. and he's like, Peter's like 11 or 12 at this point, and this is the little boy that's with him, and they're like, it's not your son. And he's like, it is my son, I just forgot to mention him. They're like, I mean, it's not your son, and also he's black. So like, it's like, even if it potentially was a son that we didn't know about, like the race is wrong. So yeah, he brought home this child, and I mean, it never tells you in all the. I've tried to find out what happened to that little boy. I don't know. I just hope he returned.
This guy's mental.
Yes. So he, at 19, he changes his name to Bruce Lee, and the name he goes by is Bruce George Peter Lee, and that name is in there because of his stepdad. I can't remember if the George or the Peter moving it around, because he's Peter George Dinsdale. Moving it around is a tribute to his stepdad, and also he's obsessed with Bruce Lee. Now I'm going to kind of start in reverse. I'm going to start with the crime that leads to him getting caught. So this is where we meet the Hasties. Now they're basically December 4th, 1979. The Hasties live on a street called Selby Street in a very deprived area. Next door to them is a drug dealer. Like there's just a lot of it's quite a spicy area basically.
Is this in Hull?
This is in Hull now. Yeah. So at this point, Peter is 19 years of age. Now Edith, the mum, she wakes up. She's 34 years old. She's got 7 kids. And she wakes up and she just has a weird feeling. Her 3 daughters are staying with friends and family over the way. So there's the 3 girls, Angelina, Viola, and Sophie, who is a twin of one of the boys, are staying somewhere else. Now the 4 boys are at home. So they are... In fact, there is actually 5 boys. There's an older boy as well. So these are the 7 kids that are in the house. So that's Charlie, he's 15 years old. Charlie will become very important to this. Paul, who's 12, Thomas, who's 9, and Peter, who's 8, and is the twin of Sophie. So she wakes up and she's like, something's not right. She goes to check on the kids. The house is ablaze. It's on fire. She wakes up Charlie, the eldest, the 15-year-old boy, and says, go and like fetch Thomas, because Thomas, one of the kids, he has muscular dystrophy, so he won't be able to get out the house without any assistance anyway. So there's flames everywhere. She starts to really panic because she can't get to the kids, and in her panic, she's screaming. Charlie grabs her and he just opens the window and pushes her out, because he's just trying to basically make her escape as quickly as she can, and she's worrying so much. So she falls out the window. She injures her ankle, but is okay. And so Charlie goes back to get Peter, to get Paul, who he's been sharing a room with, because Thomas, because of his impairments, sleeps in with his mum. Now, because the window was open from pushing his mum out, it creates a through draft, and the fire just is incredibly quickly enveloping the house. The fire crew arrive. Peter, Paul, and Charlie are covered in burns, 70 to 85% covered in burns. So Thomas survives. Weirdly, the room that he's in is sort of untouched. It goes over one side of the house. Charlie dies the next day. Like, his injuries are so bad, and he was trying to save his brothers. The other boys are taken to Wakefield, Pinderfields, which is like a burn specialist, the closest burn specialist. Peter dies 2 days later, and Paul dies 9 days later. It also killed the family dog, which is just like another shit thing. Now, their dad, Tommy, was in prison at this point, and they let him out of prison on compassionate grounds. So there's a guy called Detective Superintendent Ronald. How do I say that? Sega, right.
Sega. Like when you turn on the Mega Drive. Do you remember that?
No, I know, because I was a Nintendo gal.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Were you Sega?
Sega. Loved a Mega Drive, me.
Enjoy your fucking...
Sonic.
Yes, please. Sonic and a dolphin. Absolute dog shit.
Enjoy Echo the Dolphin.
Cool spot.
I didn't like it.
I'll have fun with Mario over here.
I got a DS or whatever they're called.
I think it's a DS. Did you?
Yeah. And it's very hard for me to find a game, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, Mario Kart is not for me, and it's very expensive. So I've got Garfield Racing.
That sounds adorable.
And it's 99p. It's very good. All the characters are there. John, Odie, Nermal. I don't know how I'm telling you this, but you know Nermal?
No.
Do you know Nermal?
Is that the love interest of John?
No.
What is Nermal?
Nermal is a kitten. He's a self-proclaimed world's cutest kitten,
Right.
And Garfield hates Nermal.
What colour is Nermal?
Grey.
Okay.
He hates him. But for some reason, I don't know why this is so funny, when Nermal is introduced to the Garfield comics, Garfield's like this. And John's got him on his hand and he's like, meet Nermal. And I just think it's one of the funniest things. And I don't know why. Because he hates him. And he's like, it's on his hand. I don't know why it's...
What, that's the joke?
Yeah, that's it. It's just so...
He's on the hand?
No, it's just funny that it's not meant to be funny, but it's just... I find it just so funny because he's like, Garfield hates him. And he's like, meet Nermal. And Nermal's like...
Okay.
So it's... I don't know why it makes me laugh, but every so often in my own head, I just say in my own head, meet Nermal.
Okay. Well, now that's in my head.
It's just little things that make you laugh that just stay with you, you know.
Do we need to open a window in here? What's happening?
I just find Garfield very amusing. Same as Snoopy.
Have you been eating the little sachets from shoeboxes that say do not eat on them?
That's crystal meth in it.
Is it?
I don't know.
Silica gel, isn't it?
Just made that up. But I don't know why. It just, you know, I'm going to find it and show you. Like,
okay, well, I know it'll be underwhelming. Maybe, I don't know if we were allowed to do that, but maybe Owen, with the podcast, if you're watching it, can get up a picture of the exact still. But I sincerely, I think we'll get sued. That is what you're laughing at? His face.
Yeah, but it's like, he's like, hey! And John thinks, oh, Garfield up and Gavin's like, I'm not.
No, Rachel, I understand why it's meant to be funny. Yeah, it just is.
I just find it really funny and I don't know why. And I can't explain it. You know what it is? It's something wholesome that I find funny.
It's very adorable. And you're now going to get loads of Garfield stuff brought to you at live shows.
Please do. I love Garfield. In fact, I've got a Garfield nightdress. And it says, he's leaning like, whatever. He doesn't care. He just loves lasagna and hates Mondays.
Right. Detective Superintendent Ronald Sagar, he arrives at the house. There's a big investigation going on. The fire service are investigating. They find 2 spent matches by the letterbox and they could smell paraffin as well. Now, they realise that near to the letterbox, but not underneath it, was a pool of paraffin because obviously the house has gone up. You can't tell if there was paraffin there.
Horrible.
So they were like, okay, this looks like it is arson. It looks like whoever had like a thing to pour it in set it down there and came over, and that's what the matches are for. So they were like, this is deliberate because there were a lot of house fires at the time.
Chip pan.
Yeah, there were loads. So people wore incredibly flammable clothing. The stuff didn't have to be flame retardant. They lived in houses with open fires.
Do you remember those night dresses that non-Garfield ones that were made of that really silky sort of fabric, and they'd often have like a cartoon or something on it? I had one with 2 frogs in a boat or something. But then one day they just all disappeared because it was realised that the kids were.
I remember that thing of like, but my parents would like. I remember them being like, "Don't stand that close to the fire."
Yeah. My sister,
like, oh, still give me the nightie that is a death trap.
My sister had her coat melted. She was standing in front of the fire, and I'm going to school one morning, and she was on a little. And then, you know, when your mum panics, so the back of the coat was like melting, and I got bollocks for it.
What?
But you know when a parent panics,
yeah,
and they're like, "Oh, you see what you've done?" It's like, I didn't know this was happening. Like, oh, I wasn't watching. You little shit, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. There's displaced anger. It needs to go somewhere, doesn't it? Yeah.
And a good kick in for me. That's what happened. Although my mother, we've said this before, denies the fact that she used to hit us. But I don't mind that. I think I would have deserved it on occasion. You want to hit your kids, you go for it.
No.
In fact, let me hit your kids for you.
Oh, this is nice. It's like being on Good Morning. No, what's it called? GB News. Hit your kids. Hit your kids.
Hit your kids. Actually, no. Let Nick Ferrari hit your kids. I don't actually think he's on GB News.
No, that's LBC, isn't it? Dad. I should say Dad Tommy was also the detective superintendent, Roger Sagar, was like, referred to him as a lovable rogue. He had quite a lot of affection for this family, even though when they said there's a fire at the Hasties, there was about 20 other families in Hull called Hasty, and they all knew exactly which house it was. So they were very known to the police, let's say.
Well, they're a large family, aren't they? Like,
yeah, but look, around this time, families would be that big. And Tommy was in doing 5 months for burglary of a sports club with his eldest son, because it's really nice to bond with the eldest.
I think that's lovely.
It's fishing or burglary, isn't it?
Learning from his dad.
So apparently the family used to run riot around the place. Things that they did, and this includes Charlie, the heroic Charlie who died trying to rescue his brothers, was they would piss through people's letterboxes.
Oh, come on.
They would rob kids of their pocket money. And they would, just checking my notes here, shit on their doorsteps. Which I have never heard of. It's a phrase, isn't it? Don't shit on your own doorstep.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, don't shit on anyone's is the first thing.
Unless this is an old custom that has just
maybe it's a whole thing.
Shitting on people's doorsteps.
Yeah. Oh no, someone's shit on my doorstep. I can't. That's really offensive. Sorry, people from Hull. I think you've got a beautiful accent. Yeah. So they were known as being a tricky family. I mean, every street's got a family that's tricky, right? Now, this really surprised...
I'm thinking, so that means it was us.
No way.
Like, no, we weren't. We were very well behaved.
Yeah, I think you were
very, very well behaved.
So they start the investigation, and Ronald Sager says, "Never before have I encountered such hatred and dislike for a family."
Wow.
This case becomes incredibly hard to investigate because everybody has a motive for burning the house down on the street.
Fucking hell. I mean, that's horrible, really.
It's
I mean,
awful.
when you think about it, that shouldn't happen to anybody. That's an awful thing to happen. And
it's horrific. There's 3 kids dead. It becomes so journalists descend on the place, do loads of interviews, because it's obviously a big tragedy, and every neighbour they speak to is like they had it coming, or I don't really care, I didn't like the kids. So then the story becomes, it's called Street of Hate, and loads of these newspapers run a bit about how this is a community that hate each other because of this thing with the Hasties. So
Jesus.
There was basically too many people in the neighbourhood with a grudge for that to give any leads. At one point, they thought it might have been like a Murder at the Orient Express thing, spoiler alert coming, guys, where one of them brought the matches, one of them brought the paraffin, one of them they thought the whole street was in on it at some point because everyone disliked them.
Jeez.
There's all sorts of weird sort of stories popping up. Like there's the whole paper, whole Daily News runs a story about someone apparently is on a flyover which looks over the street and is looking down at the street when the building's on fire and goes, oh no, sorry, there's a kid on a bicycle looking on the flyover and watching the house burn. They're like, maybe it was the kid on the bike, and then they find the kid on the bike. It wasn't the kid on the bike. And apparently that same flyover that looks over the house, the day Charlie died, there was an old man up there saying, one down, 4 to go. Yeah, which is a lot.
These people are horrible.
But then they find him and it's just sort of a mad old man who wasn't to do with anything.
I mean, being horrible isn't a crime, is it? I mean...
No, it isn't. Now, they interview them and Edith says, well, now you mention it, like, yeah, we didn't get on well with our neighbours, but a few months before this fire, a letter was put through our door. It was really aggressive and it did threaten us. They go back to the house. Inexplicably, one of the rooms that hasn't burnt is the one with the letter in. So this letter is still intact. Ooh. I would love to read this aloud for you because this gives them what they appear to, like a big, lead. So, a family of fucking rubbish. We all hate you. You should all live on an island, brackets, Devil's Island, close brackets. But I'm not kidding. But I promised you a bomb, and by hell, I'm not kidding. Why don't you just flit while you've got the chance? If we can't get you out normally, then we'll bastard well bomb you out. And that is too good for you. Ooh. Very full on, right?
Ooh.
So what they do,
this person?
Well, they get the handwriting samples from all the local community and they find that it's someone who is living about 3 doors down from the Hasties. It is a woman. She is in her 80s. She's a churchgoer and one of her friends is being bullied by the Hasty kids.
Wow.
And she sent that in. and she hadn't committed a crime other than she sent them basically a poison pen letter because she said, I'm just sick of those kids picking on my friend.
Wow. But she's just speaking her mind.
Yeah, and she was like, they were like, oh, you must regret that. And she was like, no, the kids were horrible. It's I've never heard of anything like, well, the closest I've come to is I've got a friend who, in some schools, now, obviously as adults, we can look back and see lots of kids who behave badly. There's a lot going on, right, at home and stuff. But in school, there's usually one, like, cunt, right? Mm-hmm. Someone who's a cunt.
Yeah.
So someone I know, the cunt of their school died. And the teacher was on the news. And normally they go very, popular, well-liked. And then the teacher on the news, they're like, obviously, a tragedy. And the teacher went, his friends liked him. And that was, like, all that they could say. It's like, yeah, his friends liked him, yeah.
Well, it happened to someone that went to my school that had similar thing happened.
Really? And when no one can find anything good to say about them?
Yeah,
awful.
Not a nice person.
I feel like that is a job, right? I feel like I could do that for a job and be like, has someone you know who's a cunt just died and you need someone to say something nice about it? I reckon I could throw out those platitudes.
I think, though,
Hey, I'll do it when you die.
Everyone.
She was kind. She was loyal. She was supportive. She was loving. And she was a friend to all the children's and animals'.
Have I said this before about funerals? Stop me if I told you. Because my dad, I've said about my dad, that I said to him, God, when you die, obviously I don't want that to happen, but when you die, I'm like, you never tell us anything. We don't know anything about you. What are we going to say at your funeral? He was a bus driver and a man. We don't have any stories. He's
going to BTK you. He's going to be like, just play this DVD.
Do you know, I would be so surprised if he did something like that.
Of course you would. It's your dad.
But he just never tells us anything. He never talks about his life. He doesn't talk about things he enjoys. I don't think he likes music.
What music are you going to play? Just bang out the Welsh National Anthem.
That's the only music he does like, I think.
We did for my dad, we did a memorial, and the amazing Christopher Hughes, who's come on this podcast and talked to, the guy who's a pathologist, he did the service.
Oh, lovely.
Service. He wrote the eulogy for my dad. And my dad, I did this interview with my dad a couple of years ago now about his life. It's 3 hours long. So I sent it to Chris and he listened to it all and he wrote this amazing thing. He did it in Welsh and English. It was so beautiful. So we're in this memorial hall, so it's not religious. And it was such a beautiful kindness for Chris to do it for me as well. To have a friend doing it was so stunning. And he's such a good orator. So I felt really happy that he was doing it. And it finally gets sort of okay, everyone's sort of settled now, we'll kind of start. So Chris goes up in front of everyone and sort of bilingually says, thank you very much for coming, and explains that I understand you is Welsh speaker, but I'm going to switch between the languages, and he's doing that. And it's very sort of obviously somber and kind of profound. And that exact moment, the guy we entered the hall that we hired for the hall from, so we're looking at this thing, it's like a proscenium art stage, out of one of the side doors, genuinely fucking Acorn Antiques. He comes with a tray of mugs like this, shaking through, and Chris turned around and looked at him, but just sort of carried on a little bit louder, but he shook his way across the hall. It was fucking nuts, and obviously it's really, really funny. But it was fucking obviously. And we'd waited ages. Yeah, I really laughed. And then also my partner made we got some lovely little videos of my dad, and my partner cut together a gorgeous little sort of almost like a narrative from all the little clips of my dad saying sort of funny things and doing stuff, and it was really beautiful. So he goes to play it, and whatever he'd done, it just wasn't playing. So Chris says, and I think we've got a little video now of you, so, and then it goes, and it's just awkward, and then it's so it's on the screen, and then it minimizes, and then you can just hear him clicking through different files, and he just turns around and goes, it's what he would have wanted, and then goes on, and then it works fine. But yeah, it was, but stuff like that does happen at funerals, I think, where it ends up being so funny.
I told you at my grand's funeral, they played the wrong song. Yeah. And the humanist, the poor guy, you could just see he was like, oh, fuck, kind of thing. And at the end of the service, you could tell that he was like, I'm going to get bollocked here. But we were just like, we thought it was funny. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's that you've got one chance to get it right.
Yeah, it's so tough, isn't it?
But, it's just is how it is, isn't it? In fact, John Stansfield was asking about your saying about you yesterday and saying spoke very nicely about your dad. Because he said, I remember meeting Kiri's dad, and he was very
that's
very
sweet.
nice about him.
Everyone's fucking met him because he was always at gigs and stuff, which is really nice that people have memories of him. Yeah. Fucking that guy. Oh, and then also, this guy I rented the hall from, who fucking Acorn antiqued it out. He goes at the end, he went, that guy was a very good speaker, wasn't he? I said, oh yeah. I said, he does a lot. So he said, what does he do then for a job? I said, well, he's a presenter. So he's also head of the Anglesey Druids, so he does lots of things. I was like, God, if I'd known he was head of Anglesey Druids, I would have gone along and had a chat with him. Like, well, no, because it was my fucking dad's memorial service. So you're not going to work the room, you mad bastard.
But also, what is he going to get?
Yeah. He's turns out I'm a druid. Yeah.
What is in that for you?
I don't know. Just the people who run church hall or, have the keys to a local property, they're always something special, aren't they?
Oh, not for me. Busy bodies.
Not my words.
Like to hang around for every meeting to hear what's going on.
Anyway, so January 4th, 1980... there is a procession down Selby Street for the boy's funeral. You've got 3 child coffins. I can't imagine what it's like. TV cameras are everywhere because obviously it's big news. And in front of
you saying child coffin makes it sound like something that, like a job that you don't. People say like child soldier.
Oh, child coffin.
Child coffin.
Yeah, it's like that. No, these poor lads. Now, in front of all these TV cameras, Edith screams, "It was one of you bastards. One of you on this street is the murderer." Which made fucking lovely television, let me tell you.
I imagine Sheridan Smith doing that.
Yes,
the dramatisation, yeah.
Now, there was a call to the Hull Police Department the day after the fire that was anonymous that said, listen, I saw 2 men running away from the scene. I saw them jump into a Rover 2000 where there was someone waiting to drive them away. And so they were driven away by the 3rd man. So they trace this call while he's on the call. The police go down and they arrest this guy as he's leaving the payphone. And they interview him. And they basically, so this is the closest they have to a lead. They've got nothing. So, okay, it was Rover 2000, and they search for everyone in the area with the Rover 2000. That's quite a modern car. So they think for a while it's a case of mistaken identity, because they basically think that those 2 men were getting revenge on a drug dealer who lived next door to the Hasties.
Oh my God.
And just got the wrong door.
Oh, right.
But then as they go and investigate, and this Rover 2000 isn't really turning up any leads at all, they like, what if this guy is a bullshitter, because he can describe the men's eye colour, and he can describe
this is
details down to, and I quote, the buttons on their T-shirt. Who's got a fucking button on your T-shirt?
Oh, I know exactly what that is. That's that proper sort of...
Oh, like a polo shirt thing.
Yeah,
like a Fred Perry type.
But, a bit raver.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Maybe. In 1980, yeah. I could see that. So they're sort of in this Rover 2000 area, but it doesn't actually bring up anything. They start talking to local criminals, and what they say to them is that they think, because it's a kid murder, that they will actually grass up. Because normally, obviously, there's like honour amongst thieves. But they think because the family is, it's such a tragedy because it's kids, but they're like, no. And then there's 6 months of endlessly interviewing the community, police presence all the time, interviewing all the local like petty thieves and everything. And basically someone turns around and goes, listen, can you just piss off now? Because like no one's doing any good jobs around here. People aren't even necking stereos because you're here all the time. And said, if we knew who it was, we would tell you just so you fucking fuck off and we can crack on with our lives again. Because there was a really obviously bad relationship between the police and the area. And then they were like, okay. Because they were like, well, listen, like you're ruining our lives. We would tell you if anyone knew.
You're ruining the local economy.
You are ruining the local economy. There's nothing for our boys anymore. So, one of the things they found from this Rover 2000, which, by the way, a few months later, the guy at the payphone who called in that tip went, I've just remembered it was a different night. So they did all this investigation. They got a list of all these Rover 2000s. Now, one of the Rover 2000s on this list, they surveilled for a while, and they found out that whoever was driving it was cruising for sex with teenage boys, which is quite a common thing in that area because it's very, very impoverished.
Sounds like an Arctic Monkeys song.
It really, so much of this does. There was a big...
Driving round the streets.
Don't sing anymore. So they find that one of these guys is sort of soliciting, so they think maybe there's a connection to these, like, rent boys. So Ronald Sagar throws the dice on this one and goes, okay, I'm going to get the 10 sort of like busiest boys in, and I'm going to say, I know you did the fires, like, come on, you come clean, and fuck, I know you did. No pun intended. I know you did. I know you did the fires. So just confess now, and and it won't get any worse for you. So one of the people he brings in is a 19-year-old called Bruce Lee, and he says, I didn't mean to kill them. And he's like, oh, because his plan worked and he wasn't expecting to at all. So there's a couple of reasons for this. So Charlie and, 15-year-old Charlie, the eldest of the boys, and 19-year-old Peter have interactions with each other, largely through the rent boy scene. So Bruce/Peter refers to it as he was doing something indecent with Charlie, and he said wanking and that. And then what would happen is Charlie would kind of extort him for money, because he sort of implies, Peter's sort of implying that it's a mutual thing and they're just like messing about wanking together, wanking each other off and stuff. But then Charlie would be like, I want money for that, or I want money, otherwise I'm going to go to the police because I'm 15 and what you're doing is illegal. So he didn't like him for that. And he was also obsessed with Angie, who was the eldest of the girls, his 16-year-old daughter of the Hasties, and the boys used to bully him and make fun of him, and everyone would make fun of him for being so into Angie. So he was like, right, I'm gonna get him back, and so sets the house on fire. But what Sagar doesn't know at this point is that this is like the final part of his death count, that he has been setting fires that kill people since he was about 9 years old.
Oh my God.
So
get the lad a bike, for God's sake.
He basically says he wanted to frighten him and not kill him. He had a bike. It's actually how he got away with some of the stuff.
Okay.
So he basically waited till it got quiet in there, and it was quieter than normal because the girls were away. And he put some paraffin through the letterbox, and he tries twice with matches and it doesn't catch, hence the matches being down there. And then he lights a bit of newspaper and he throws it in, the newspaper burns, and then the carpet, and it just goes up incredibly quickly, and that's what happens. Ooh. Now,
I think he did intend to kill him.
I think he doesn't care. I think there's a really interesting thing with him where he is, for many reasons. I don't think he has total capacity because of his IQ.
Right.
He's treated incredibly badly by the area, by everybody, that I just think he thinks, oh, fuck him. Like, he's got no skin in the game, if you like. So he burns the house down. Now, it's released in the press that Bruce Lee has burnt a house down and killed 3 children. And someone called Ros Fenton, who's about 27, well, she's 27 when the crime occurs, she goes, oh, it was someone called Bruce Lee. And then later on the news, because it's a big story, she sees a picture and goes, that's not Bruce Lee, that's Daft Peter. And I have a memory of him where I was in a fire. So she phones the police. So this is back in June 1979. Ros is heavily pregnant. She's 27 years old. She is in the house and she sees a figure at the door putting their hand through the letterbox. I literally can't think of anything fucking scarier than seeing a hand through a letterbox like that.
Through a letterbox.
Oh yeah, of course, a dick through a letterbox. A dick in any context. Except the one in a box in my living room. Oi, oi! I was saying that because Rachel was talking about a dildo she bought for a show, and I was like, you can have my old one, because the end of my Empathy Pain show, you can watch it on Gumroad, I have, spoiler alert, the biggest dildo.
It's horrible.
It's horrible, and I had to buy it on the day before Valentine's Day. Chock-a-block it was.
From an actual shop?
Yeah, the one on Oxford Street.
Oh.
Like the big,
Yeah.
Can I just say, right? So when I was actually researching some of this up, I was driving past Hull. I was in that kind of area anyway. I was driving down from like the northeast, Teesside. And 2-3 occasions on that stretch of road, as if you're going from north to south, you get like a Mackey's on the side of the road and you get like a petrol station. Also, You know what I'm going to say?
Sex shop.
Fucking massive sex shop.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's 3 of them.
There's one as well.
Called like Pulse and Cocktails as well.
I know exactly where you
mean.
mean.
Yeah, I think I'll go in for a fucking mojito and something I can put up my arse.
There'll be something mad like an American style diner.
Yeah. It does. It has like an okay diner and then something that's just like, those tails you can put in so you can pretend you're a horse.
Lincolnshire as well.
Really?
Yeah. There's a few places like that.
Something about that spine of the country. It's absolutely rotten.
I just think
big UKIP voters as well.
Ooh, it's just. I mean, I don't think I've ever been in a sex shop.
I went in. I went in to buy this dildo, and I think I maybe in Canal Street. There's sort of ones that kind of are sex shops, but it's also just sort of like a gay guy sat leafing through a magazine, and you can also get like other stuff in there. Yeah. So you go in and get chewing gum on a night out, and there's just like big fucking rubber butts by your face.
Did you?
Fine, no shame. I think all corner shops should be like that.
Did you get it and go, this is for show, actually?
No, but I did have to go around like trying out which is funniest in front of my director, Adam, and be like, is this big enough? Is this funny enough? And like, I felt very self-conscious and also fucking spenny as well.
How much was that?
I don't know, but then I talk about this in the show. Maybe like 12 months later, I get an email from my accountant going, Can I ask what this this payment to like whatever it's called, the Pleasure Dome is? Or just a really big sandwich. But it was too much money really for a show I only did fucking 5 or 6 times. I think that one I got was like 22
quid, and it's just for one joke.
Yeah.
And it is in my business account.
Yours has got balls.
It's got balls, yeah, and it's horrible. It doesn't vibrate or anything. It's just got a suction thing.
Oh yeah, well you put it on the side of the shower, right?
It's not for me. It's too big. It just looks aggressive.
Yeah, well you've seen that the box is more aggressive than mine. It's got a big red end. Tell you what, I'll bring it to the live shows. And at the end, one of you can win it.
Also, there is something. People will always laugh at a dildo.
It's funny.
It's funny.
Because also, like, the whole point of, like, I give quite an earnest speech at the end about male suicide and, people who die by suicide, men in particular. And I sort of got the dildo, and it's got a lot of you've seen it, it's got a lot of movement to it. So I just thought it's sort of a funny thing to do to make everyone feel more comfortable with what I'm talking about. I mean, it's a great show, guys. I'm very sad I never got to tour it. You should go and watch it. Anyway. So, Roz goes, she sees his hand through the letterbox. That's where this starts. She sees a hand through the letterbox. And she was like, and then as soon as they saw her standing there, they disappeared. And she went, oh, it's fine. It's just Daft Peter. Because he was always knocking around doing slightly weird things. They were like, it's fine. He's absolutely harmless. And I think loads of us have grown up with maybe someone with additional needs in our community. And everyone's like, they're absolutely harmless, but also don't treat them well or support them necessarily. Or maybe they do.
I've definitely told this story before about the guy, I think he still works at the supermarket, who he collected trolleys. Like, he used to wave to him and all the rest of it, and everyone knew who he was. And there was some lads picked on him, and some local scallies found out and beat the shit out of the lads. That were
I like mob
him.
justice.
Yeah.
Yes, please. So she goes to bed, and then she's woken up and someone is screaming fire.
Oh my God, that noise was so frightening.
It was a horse, wasn't it?
I don't
know
if
you heard that on a... Yeah, I did. It's someone saying, Rachel again! The ghost's back!
Don't. It's scary.
So,
do you know what I think that was when I heard my name?
Go on.
That was the dog. Is it like Wizard of Oz out there? Is everyone up in here? I think that was a harbinger. Is it harbinger or harbinger?
Yeah.
I've only ever read the word. I've never said it. Harbinger of doom.
Oh yeah, because you had
loads
of bad stuff happen.
A few horrible things happened. I think that was what that was.
Fucking hell!
I mean, it could just have been a mistake.
It was a mistake. Dramatic, yeah, it was a phone buzzing.
Story and be dramatic. Isn't it?
So she wakes up. Someone is yelling fire. She's fucking massively pregnant. So she moves as fast as she can to her daughter Samantha's room. Her daughter is 7 years old. They can't escape.
Oh my God!
So she basically goes and gets in the corner furthest away from the fire, and she sits there with Samantha. And fortunately, they are rescued, but they are severely burned. To the point,
God,
yeah, awful. They just had to sit there and wait. They're in hospital for months. Roz miscarries as a result of this. It's fucking absolutely horrible. Yeah. Now, they didn't interview her because she's so traumatized, the police, and then because there was no deaths, there was never an inquest into it, which means that she never got to give a statement and say, well, I do remember seeing someone by the door, and I think it was Daft Peter. So this could have been stopped early days.
Oh my God.
With the one fatality of Rosa's unborn child. But it wasn't, because there wasn't an investigation. And they just blamed it. They said, oh, someone probably dropped a cigarette who was visiting in the day, and that was it. That was done.
In the day?
So she had a visitor over the day who was a smoker, and they went, oh, that's what it'd be. They'll have dropped a cigarette.
So a cigarette stayed burning.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of that where they're like, yeah, a cigarette must have burned for 7 hours unattended. There's a lot of this.
Lazy bastards.
She phoned the police, and they said, do you know a Ros Fenton? And he was like, yeah, I did that one as well. So he just immediately confesses, and they said, why? And he said, I just did it. Someone I knew didn't like her, so I just did it. But largely, one of the reasons it was so hard to find him is it was absolutely motiveless. He would just sort of wander along and go, oh, that's quiet, and he'd set fire to it. So they couldn't find, they were like, it's not like normal serial killers where he's doing it for some kind of exacting revenge, or he's carefully picked the target. It's not like Unabomber where it's, it's just sort of, it's absolutely random. And they as a result, they think it's a criminal mastermind really good at hiding his tracks, as opposed to what is kind of keeping him one step ahead is the fact that there isn't any thought going into it. Mm-hmm. So you can't like work out his psyche because there's not loads going on. So they said, have you done more? And he was like, yeah, I killed a baby once.
Oh my God, this guy's horrible.
Now, in the 7 years he's active as an arsonist, we haven't talked about an arsonist before, really.
No.
He kills absolutely loads. I think it's altogether is 26, which makes him one of Britain's. He kills more than the Moors murders. What's it called? The Yorkshire Ripper, and what's it called? What's the one from Black Manchester? Panther? Yeah, is
Manchester?
You know the one I mean.
Trevor Harder.
Yeah.
The Beast of Manchester.
That's it.
I was going to say the Manchester Terrier.
No, hold on. What is it? He's got another nickname because I've written it down here somewhere. He kills more than.
The Black Panther.
Is it? It feels wrong to say Black Panther. So the Moors murders, Black Panther, and the Yorkshire Ripper put together. But nobody knows about him, and he does it all in 7 years. And his victims are between 6 months of age and 92 years of age. It is, you're going to absolutely hate some of the stuff coming up, by the way. So he basically, Ronald Sagar is like, okay, puts him in the car and goes, we're going to go for a drive. He says, tell me to pull over if you recognise anywhere that you've done a fire. So he gets in the car and he's like, that's where I killed the first people. So we get a timeline of his murders. By the way, at some point they do actually think he's completely making it up and he's lying, because they're like, this fucking kid who can, can't walk very well, isn't very bright, has not done all this stuff and escaped detection. So many of these fires have been, proven to be an accident. So they're taken to a place and go, you did this, didn't you? Where there was a fire, massive fire, killed people. And they knew the perpetrator. They had absolute proof. So they're like, well, catch this kid out. He's lying. They went, no, I didn't do that one. That's nothing to do with me. So they're like, shit, we think this kid is telling the truth. So he drives him around. Now, he also burnt loads of empty buildings as well.
Also, who has that much knowledge of fires in general? Like, why would?
But if he had got obsessed with it in the press or, whatever, because you just wouldn't have, I think no one would have suspected him. So there's loads of empty buildings that he'd burnt down as well. His thing was to use a paraffin can. Now, because at the time, like we were saying, loads of open fires, loads of flammable materials, no smoke alarms, it was really common for fires to happen. But there was a particularly high incidence of it in this rate, but not enough so anyone looked into it. So his next murders is in June 23rd, 1973. The parents of Richard Ellerington are on a night out. Now, they leave the kid at the home with a babysitter called Carol Dennett. They've got 6 kids and she's got a baby as well. So that is you must be paying a fucking shitload to look after all these kids. Now, Little Richard is not Little Richard the artist. Weirdly, he pops up in this, going, "I'm not bisexual. Don't ask me any more questions." Richard Ellerington is in the same school, special needs school, as Peter. Now, basically, he sets fire. The parents come back and they have a chat with Carol. It's about 2:30 in the morning. All the parents go to bed. All the babies are already in bed. Now, he basically slips in and sets fire to the building. Everyone is in the chaos of this. Remember, there's like 6 kids and a baby.
Oh my God.
And 3 adults rushing out. And in the rush, they don't realise that Richard has been left behind.
Oh no.
And he's in the front bedroom.
Oh God, it's like Home Alone, but worse.
It's absolutely terrible. It's, he dies.
Oh no.
And he is 6 years old.
That's horrible.
They blame a gas oven for it that was leaking, but yeah, it wasn't that. The front door was unlocked, the window was open because it was a warm night, so he was able to just sort of get in when he wanted. But like, what's this fucking kid knocking? Weird. He must have been quite young at this time. So what is he, 73? So he'd been 13. What is he doing at 2:30 in the morning, just wandering around? But apparently that's the kind of shit he did. So his next victim is October the 12th, 1973. It's about 6 o'clock in... Oh, by the way, the next day he's on the bus, which Richard would normally get. And someone went, oh, Richard died in a fire last night. And he said he knew. And then he was like, and then I've just kept that secret to myself ever since. And so that's how he sort of processed the death. He didn't really sort of like say anything about it. Very strange. So October the 12th, 1973, Bernard Smythe. This is awful. This poor guy, he is... like I say, in his 70s, he's reclusive, he's got dementia, he's got double gangrene in his legs. So he basically lives in his living room because he can't get up the stairs. He also has had the electricity cut off because he's not very well and he's not got a lot of money.
Oh, this is horrible.
He has a candle to read with because he can't see. And fucking Peter basically goes in through, there's a broken window that he hasn't been able to repair because he's an old guy with not a lot of money and he's got enough shit going on. He goes in through the broken window and he sprays paraffin everywhere in the lounge and he sets fire to it, and Bernard dies in his chair. He can't walk out because he's got these gangrenous legs. And they do an investigation. They say, oh, what happened is a paraffin heater, it tipped over and the candle set fire to it. Horrific. Absolutely horrific. He's 13 at this point, and he kills loads of people this year. So David Brewer as well. So October 27th, this is like 2 weeks after that murder, 1973. He had been, I have noticed a lot of things here. If you look at these first 3, Richard had a disability, Bernard had a disability, David was injured in a work accident. So they're saying it's random, but so many of these people have disabilities. And I don't know if it's just because he did other fires he didn't admit to, and these people were able-bodied and able to get out. But there's a lot of, there's
vulnerable.
And in the Hastings as well, so.
Also a woman with a daughter and a pregnant woman.
Lots of pregnant women, who can't move easily. So, David Brewer had a work accident that had meant he had an injury that he wasn't able to sort of move as well. It was basically impacted his life. So he lived with his mum. His mum was out that particular night, and he used to basically spend a lot of time and sleep on the settee a lot because it was difficult for him to move. He goes to the loo. He comes back in, and the living room is on fire, and he catches fire very quickly. His neighbour, Hilda Lister, comes running over and covers him in wet towels because he's covered in burns. But he'd still died a few days later in hospital. I think he lived for about 8 days.
That's horrible.
Her son, Sean Lister, knew Peter, and this is sort of why they think his the motive was. So basically, David had pigeons, and Peter used to come over and I'm walking the house all the time, walk over to the pigeon thing, and he was like, you don't just come around here when you want. This is, he asked permission. And Sean was there because Sean used to help out with the pigeons. And he basically gave him a clip round the ear. So some people say he gave a clip round the ear. Some people say he threatened to give him a clip round the ear. And Peter did not like that. And he said, I'm going to kill him for that. And he says, I'm going to wring your pigeons' necks. And that's apparently when he hit him. And then they went to the pigeon loft. All the animals have had their necks wrung. And
oh my God, this guy is mad.
Yeah, and he's
dangerous.
13, and David had died. He'd been burnt, yeah. So Elizabeth Roker on, I'll hate this one, December 23rd, 1974. She's a widow. Again, she slept in her living room most of the time. She, the living room catches fire, and she couldn't walk unassisted. She needed a walker. She just couldn't get out in time.
This is horrible.
So they see smoke coming out at about she also was blind as well.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Will you stop telling me these things? This is horrible.
I told you would hate this one. So yeah, she's a poor woman, cannot see very well. She's losing her eyesight. She has to use a frame to walk with. Sets fire to her living room where she sleeps most of the time, and she dies. There's an investigation. They say, it must have been her clothes drying by the fire, because lots of people did that caught. And then they investigate it. When, oh no, it started in the bedroom by the pillow. She must have been smoking in bed. And her family were like, she loved smoking, but she never smoked in bed. That was like one of her rules. And they were like, yeah, no, she was smoking in bed. So they didn't investigate it any further. Even though, like, how would a cigarette have, like, she would have to have been, it takes her ages to get, like, it's just the timelines, isn't, because if it's going to catch, it catches quickly. Also,
listen to people when they say, if people know somebody, listen to them. It's like, when someone goes missing, it's like you've got to wait 24 hours. If something's out of character, I don't know why they don't just...
Yeah. So, yeah, he just had entered through the back door because she was, she knew the area and she didn't lock it. So, this is... God, these are all horrible. So, June 3rd, 1976. This is... a couple called James and Veronica Edwards. They have a son. They've got 3 kids. Andrew is the youngest. He's only 13 months old. They go out for a night out and they leave Nana to look after it. So that's Dorothy Stevenson. So Dorothy's looking after the babies. She's in her 70s. She's 77. She puts baby Andrew, the youngest, to bed. And when she comes downstairs, she noticed that the cupboard under the stairs has got smoke billowing out of it. So she gets the kids outside, but the baby is trapped in an area that she cannot get to, and he passes away. Andrew was 13 months old and he dies.
This is awful.
What happens is little David, who's one of the kids, he's 5 years old, says, this is my fault because I've been playing with matches. And the grandma was like, no, you haven't. There's one set of matches in the house and they were in my pocket. She said, you didn't do this. But he was convinced he did. And then he went back and said, oh no, I just know it's bad to play with matches. It wasn't actually me. It's horrific. It's so horrific. Dorothy feels so guilty that she couldn't save Andrew. She ends up going into an institution. Because it literally drives her insane. It is just deemed to be a very tragic accident. No. It's horrible. January 2nd, 1977, Katrina Thacker. So her family, again, had pigeons and Peter used to walk around all the time and like interfere. So that there was sort of a connection, interfere. He used to come around and just be a fucking nuisance around the place. So basically, what happened was... So she had a baby. So there's a toddler asleep upstairs. Mm-hmm. She had a baby in a cot, and she had another girl as well, who's a little bit older, who I think was half sister to the babies. So she takes the little girl, to the toilet, and when she comes back, everything is on fire. She runs upstairs. She grabs the toddler, gets the kids out, comes back. She can't get to the cot, and this is a 6-month-old child who then dies. And they said, oh, it's because the fireplace was set up to be burned. And they were like, yeah, but there was no fuel. There was just stuff in the... And they were like, yeah, it must have been a spark that's come in through the window. And then so it was like, no investigation. This is a tragic accident. So we're on to January 5th, which you'll notice is 3 days later in 1977. So he cycles. This is an interesting one. This is, I'd say, one of the worst. He cycles 3 miles. He's just cycling around. He's got some paraffin with him, a can of paraffin. And he finds his house. He's like, oh, it's nice and quiet. So he kicks a window in and he goes into a bedroom, spreads the paraffin around, sets fire to it, and then cycles back and throws the can into the Humber, into the body of water there. Now the building that he's in that was nice and quiet was a place called Wensley Lodge. It is a council-owned residential home. I think you've got the names of the 11 victims.
Here we are. Harold Acaster, 95. Victoria Consett, 83. Benjamin Phillips, 83. Arthur Elwood, 82. William Holt, 82. William Carter, who's 80. Percy Sanderson, 77. John Ribby, 75. William Beale, 73. Leonard Dennett, who was 73. And Arthur Hardy, who was 65.
I was wrong then. I thought it was 6 months to 92. It's 95 years. Imagine getting to 95 and dying like that.
Horrible.
It's awful. So a care assistant is in the home on the first floor and sees smoke coming out from under one of the doors, goes and gets someone else. They find the fire, and there was a resident in there that they managed to get out. Absolutely awful. They obviously evacuate as much as they can, but they can't get everybody out in time because so many people in those situations have, mobility needs, and fire evacuations are absolute, like incredibly hard thing to do. And at nights there's fewer staff on as well. And apparently there's different accounts of it, but I've read an account where Peter Dinsdale said, oh, that was horrible. Yeah, I was cycling away and I could hear men screaming, oh my God, like But then there's somewhere he goes, oh no, I was nowhere near it, like when it happened. Now, what happens is a poor plumber who was working on the building that day in the basement, they blamed it on him.
Blamed it on him.
Yeah, they said, oh, we're using a blowtorch, and it must have heated up the pipe, and the pipe must have stayed hot for 7 hours and travelled up the building and then set fire to the thing.
Poor bloke.
Exactly. And it's this shit of a kid doing it all, basically. So, April 27th, 1977, we're nearly there. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Peter Jordan is asleep in his he's asleep in a living room. He's staying with his friends Albert and Gwendolyn Gold. Now his kids are staying over.
Gwendolyn Gold.
It's a great name, isn't it? So, Albert and Gwendolyn are upstairs with their 2 kids, and Peter's 2 kids are staying over as well. So he wakes up because he hears some banging and he sees sort of a figure, and then all of a sudden the room is on fire. So he must have, without really realising, seen Peter. Not processing it was him, but had seen him setting the fire. He runs up, it's like a blaze. He shouts up the stairs. He's like, there's a fire, everybody needs to get out. So the Golds, they come down with the kids, who they've been in the back bedroom. Now, Deborah, one of their kids, has got a physical disability. Again, that's like it seems like a common theme. So she can't get out. She's struggling to get out. So the kids are leaving via a window in the back room. And then little Mark Jordan, who's only 7 years old, realises that Deborah can't do it on his own. And he runs back in, and he and Deborah die. And he's going, this 7-year-old kid has gone to save. It's absolute, and that's Peter's son. So it was like the friends who were staying over.
Oh, God.
So he gets, the kid gets a posthumous award for bravery, like rightly so. But it's like, it was genuinely making me well up. It's so sad. It's so sad. Now, Peter, whose son died saving that poor girl, he was blamed. They said, oh, were you smoking in the house? And they said, you must have left an something in the ashtray that was lit. And
this is horrible.
He was absolutely traumatised, apparently, and never recovered from it, because he thought he was responsible for the death of not only his own child, but another child as well. So January 6th, 1978, Christina Dixon, she's got 4 boys, right? The boys are in bed. She's out chatting to a neighbour, and all of a sudden she looks around and she sees the windows are full of soot, and she's starting to see smoke coming out. So she runs back in. Her husband's sick in bed upstairs. So she grabs the baby, whose name is Brian. He's covered in soot already. So he's sleeping downstairs in the cot. She grabs him and she goes back in for Mark, who's 4, Stephen, who's 3, and Michael, who's only 17 months old. Now, the neighbour sees her go back in and then just sees this massive ring of fire appear around in the living room. She hears her scream, Christine. There's an explosion and everybody dies inside.
God.
Awful. And they blamed the children. They said, oh, well, apparently the children used to play with some lighter fluid that was on the mantelpiece. So these children get blamed for the deaths.
Horrible.
It is absolutely terrible. So he apparently used to wander around. He'd get a fire in his head. Like I said, he'd have tingly fingers, and he'd wander around. He'd put paraffin in a washing up bottle and he would wander around with it. And one of the mad things about ableism, I'm sorry, is this boring you? All these murders, all these people burning to death. Yawn, yeah? You over it?
Very tired. It's quite tiring hearing all
this.
It
is. It's fatiguing. So, one of the things is, because he was disabled, that even though they all knew he was setting fire to things, they never suspected him, because they were like, he doesn't have the intellect, and he's just they just thought, as people do, that disabled people can't contribute anything, not even negatively. So he said he was invisible. He would stand at the fire scenes and no one would ever suspect him. So he would stand there and watch for ages, and they thought, oh, it's just Daft Peter being Daft Peter. And he was just yeah. And it's absolutely nuts. So he did wrestle with it a bit. He said, oh, after stuff had happened, I would check the Bible and see what it said. But ultimately he would still go and do it again. Now he's basically charged in October of 1980 after confessing to everything, based on the Roz's call in going, I'm pretty sure this is Peter who set fire to me years ago. He's psychologically evaluated, and he's found that he is sane and he's fit to stand trial. Well, so January 20th, 1981, it's in Leeds Crown Court. He denied murder, and he pled guilty to 26 counts of manslaughter and 11 counts of arson. And because he pled guilty, his pleas were accepted. So, you know, and basically it went from murder to manslaughter on grounds of diminished responsibility because of in relation to his IQ and things. But I'm like, well, how is he fit to stand trial if he can't really delineate? He can't make really conscious decisions about whether something's right or wrong. So the prosecutor was someone called Gerald Coles, who said the fires were his only true achievement in life, which is mean, but also like deserved. I also wouldn't say, let's not start saying these things are achievements.
Yeah.
But, you know, I need anything to... Do you have an ROA? Do you have one of those files? Did you get one of those in school?
Record of achievement?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know someone we know still does them? And they're in their 40s. And they're like, just filled another ROA.
Who? What a sad bastard.
I knew you'd be fuming.
Sad bastard.
Well, it's a weird thing to, no shade at anyone who does scrapbooks, which I feel is probably about 40% of our audience. So there was an investigation by local authorities. They investigated the local authority and were like, how has this happened?
Yeah.
How have you let a boy just wander around doing this? How was he so unsupported? He is detained indefinitely under the Mental Health Act. And the judge who's got a lovely Welsh name, Justice Tudur Evans, he said, this guy is a psychopath and he is a danger to the public.
Yeah.
Now, in the time between him being charged and it going to trial, Tommy Hasty, if you remember him, the dad who was let out, never saw the trial because this family is mired by tragedy. He's on a motorbike with one of his daughters. He has an accident and it kills them both.
Oh my God.
It's absolutely awful. And then 2 months later, Edie has another baby. So, like, she'd been pregnant when he died and another daughter died. Like, that family's had so much tragedy. It's unbelievably bleak. So he, first of all, is sent to Park Lane Special Hospital in Liverpool. And just like Broadmoor, it's the kind of hospital that is... Well, it's not a prison, but it's also not a traditional hospital. He's transferred eventually to Rampton Secure Hospital. All this happens, by the way, about the same time that the Yorkshire Ripper is on trial, which is why most people don't know about him. It was not the high-profile trial, even though he killed far more. That is it. He's still in there. He's still alive. In December 1983, there was an inquiry, and it overturned his conviction for the residential home. So immediately 15 manslaughter things got taken off him. And this is because there was a big investigation at the time by the Sunday Times, who said that the police had kind of coerced this out of him. They basically went, how can a boy who's disabled and has got one arm that doesn't work properly hold paraffin and cycle 3 miles? Which I think is ableist as shit.
Well,
because
you can because he did.
Yeah, exactly. So they said, oh, there's too much, he wasn't in, his timelines don't make sense. He wasn't in the right places at the right time. And we don't believe that he could cycle that far with some paraffin. So they said that there was basically enough doubt for it to be overturned, but he was still, guilty of the other, 15. So he has just 15 manslaughters, and the 11, were appealed. Now, in that article by the Sunday Times, they say that Ronald Sagar, the superintendent, had sort of falsified stuff or exaggerated or coerced him. Sagar went, okay, well, obviously print a retraction, that's not true. And they were like, well, print a retraction. But there was something they wouldn't do, so he sued them for libel, and he won successfully in 1987, and they eventually printed a retraction as well of the accusations. So that is like one of the most prolific British serial killers ever, and we've only just heard of him. That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't do many arsonists. I wonder why that is.
Don't know. Because it usually gets overshadowed by other stuff.
Yeah, isn't it weird though that like he's killing that many people, and to me like there's no good way of dying in a tragic circumstance, obviously, but like burning to death or any of that stuff seems just horrific. But because it's not like seen as a violent act, I don't know, because you're not stabbed or shot or something like that, people just didn't give as much of a shit, or strangled. It's like it's not. It's like it's another thing doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like the fire's done it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the fire that is the culprit.
Yeah. Horrible.
It's really horrible, really bleak, and I cannot believe he's 19 and one of the most...
Did not enjoy.
No, I did warn you. I said you're going to hate this one.
Didn't like that at all.
As soon as I think I was watching something. It was like an 11 elderly man. I was like, oh god,
yeah, not for me.
Rachel's going to have a tough time with this.
Hate it.
Well, that was Peter Dinsdale / Bruce Lee.
Mailbag will be next episode. Because that went on a bit.
We didn't realise it was going to be this many, even though it was an incredibly prolific killer. So thanks so much for listening, for watching.
Thank you.
For supporting us on Patreon, for supporting us by coming to our live shows, which we cannot wait to do. Please come and see me on tour. I'm on tour absolutely everywhere. By the way, if you message me, go, every time I go, I've got some new dates on sale. People go, I'm so sad that you don't come to... Do you know what's the words for it? Fucking North Wales. I wish you'd just come to Bangor. It's been on sale since December. You're choosing not to find the tickets.
It's so annoying. I know exactly what you mean. It's so annoying.
I had so many the other day. I had like 9 in a day, and I was like, I'm going to run into a fucking wall at this point. It's so hard not to be passive aggressive. So just check my website.
Have a look.
Have a look, mate. It's called Peacock, and I think I can officially talk about what it's about now. So it's been signed off by social workers. It's all done.
Ooh.
You'll find out soon, I'm sure. It's exciting, isn't it? And I'm collecting.
Is it about me?
It's about you. It's been signed up by social workers, by everyone. Really, it's gone right to the top. King Charles has got his big fat digits on it. No, shame for him. This is coming out months later, so hopefully he's still alive. I don't have to learn another anthem. Anyway,
well, do you know when it was announced that King Charles had cancer? Tim just out of the blue. No one was saying anything about it. It was the day after or something. He went, "Well, I'll tell you now. We won't be paying for another grand funeral." And I went, "Sorry?" He went, "The king?" I went, "Right, okay," just out of nowhere. I'm sure it's fake news, but I saw something where it's like, because he's a bit of a herbalist and things like that he's going to avoid chemotherapy and do it like herbally. And I was like, fucking please don't. An anti-vax king is like, no,
this country has been through enough. I really hope it's fake news is what I'm saying. Also, please don't get in contact with me about holistic medicines. Yeah. Listen,
don't get in touch with us about the king either.
You can do what you want in combination with what we know to be the most effective medical treatment.
Do you know the one argument I have? I'm sick of hearing. Well, has it been on the wait? How long is he going to be on the waiting list for? It's all right for some. It's like, of course he's not going to have NHS treatment. He's the king of England.
That is so mad that they think
the
like,
fucking
oh
king
yeah, he's
of
just going to pop down to fucking Homerton and see if he can fit. Yeah, obviously he's not.
Also, let him pay for it.
Yeah. Well, we pay for it is the issue. But
he's the king of England.
He's the king of England.
Of course he's not going to be down fucking Whips Cross Hospital.
Right. Anyway. This has been your Killa No Filler podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you soon. Bye.